Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NBA and the NFL. Got a brand new video for you guys today. We're going to discuss the 7-game slate with the stud 5 and value 5 for you guys right here at DFS Zone. Before I get started though, appreciate you guys drop a like. It definitely helps out my channel. I greatly appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel, it's your first time here, never see any of my videos, if you want to be able to get your NBA and NFL lineup advice videos here on a consistent basis, the only thing you have to do to become a DFS community member is basically just subscribe down below. Very simple. Click on that subscribe button, and right next to it on the right hand side there is that bell icon. Make sure you turn that on. This way you don't miss out. That will notify you of any of my latest and uploaded NBA and NFL lineup advice videos. All right, with that being said, today's Saturday the 3rd, November 3rd, 2018. We do have a 7-game slate in the association today. We're going to go right to it, right to point guard. I am all over Damian Lillard. He is a little pricey. You need 47 at 9,700 here. He's 9,900 on DK, so you need 49 there. He's capable of getting there. The DK price is a little pricey, but looking at the top tier players and the guards from here today, I think he has the more favorable matchup as far as getting 50 or better. So I like D Lil here tonight. 29 points per game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 44.4 fantasy points per game. Obviously, his price is above his average, but he has upside. He's capable of getting you 50, 55, 60 any given night. He has already done that twice this year, 58, pretty much a 59 spot here, 60 here. He's been at 40 or better in 5 or 6 out of his 8 or 9 games. He's coming in. Let's go over here to the cruncher. And you can see right here, man, he's got that 150, good floor. He got about maybe 29, I would say, pretty much is his floor. The 150-point game, his 24% usage rate, he's pretty much there somewhere at 24, 25. I mean, granted, he's been at 38, 36, 31. His usage rate is there. The minutes are there, 28 or better, anywhere between 28 to as much as 34 minutes on the average. That is fantastic, and he's taking huge shots. If you look at all this here and you calculate the last 6 or 7 games, he's probably averaging about 18, 19 shots per game and shooting about 8 or 9 threes. I would say maybe more like 7 on average, maybe about 7 threes per game. So he's getting tons and tons of usage when he's on the floor, and then he could do a number of other things. He does rebound a little bit. He does give out the assists. He has an occasional, bad games where he makes a lot of bad decisions with the ball, gets a lot of turnovers, but he could definitely steal a few balls, get us those additional fantasy points. His home and away splits have been pretty good thus far, and he's, at home, he's shooting right now 55%, pretty much, and shooting 44% from, actually 33% from 3 and 44% from the floor, and averaging 47 fantasy points per game at home, which is right about his average. So he definitely has the potential. He's going up against LA. LA is 26 in defending against point guards this season. They're 28th in the NBA, the most points allowed. Third most points allowed. Sorry about that. Third most points allowed thus far this year. 121 points per game to the opposition. They're allowing 28 fantasy points per game to point guards. They gave up 38 to Jamal Murray, 51 to Chris Paul, and 44 to actually D Lil in the first game of the season. So they're battling each other for the second time. I definitely see I think he definitely has the potential to get you 50 or better and definitely meet that value today. I think he's the best play here with the best upside tonight. Damian Lillard is my guy here as my stud point guard. When I'm looking at value, as far as a value play, I'm going to come down. Miami, with all their injuries, you got to have to take advantage. They're playing Atlanta. So I am all over Tyler Johnson. Now, he's going to more than likely start. There's no Dragic tonight, so Tyler Johnson will more than likely start. I would believe he will. He usually does. And this guy's scrappy. This guy's physical. He's scrappy. He loves to put up the ball. He's capable of scoring, and he's capable of scoring pretty quickly as well. 8 points, 2 rebounds per game, 2 assists, 18.4 fantasy points is not that bad coming off the bench. 4,200. You need pretty much 21 to meet value there. On DK, he's 4,100. Pretty much only 20. So you're looking at 20 to 21. That's only 3 away from what he is averaging already. But he has done that 3 out of the last 4 games. 3 out of the last 4 games, 18 plus, 23 plus, fantasy points, and he's averaging more than 23 minutes or more over the last 2 games as far as minutes. As you can see, he has 12 and 11. He's put up 23 floor points, and during the span, he kind of balances out the stat sheet quite a bit. He's capable of getting steals and blocks. Let's go over here to the cruncher, and we'll take a quick look at him here. And there you go. 16, 17 usage rate. It will be a bump up on that usage rate because this is with Dragic in the lineup. With Dragic out, he's going to probably go easily to 20, maybe as much as 22% usage today. There's going to be a bump up for him. There's going to be a bump up for McGruder. There's going to be a bump up, of course, also for Josh Richardson and maybe even Justice Winslow. Those guys are going to have to put up some serious numbers to stay in this game against Atlanta due to the injuries. Dragic is a big loss, but I think they could still get it done with Tyler Johnson in the backcourt with McGruder getting those additional shots as well. But he takes his regular 7 to 8, 9 shots a game, 12 to 11 points. He can score. He's a scorer, and he balances out the stat sheet, as you can see. 1 steal, 1 block. He had 4 steals, 5, 6 steals over the last 3, 4 games. So he is capable of getting it done. And he's a very aggressive player. Going up against Atlanta, Atlanta's 27th in points allowed to the opposition this year, 120.5 points per game. The opponents are scoring on this team. Opponents are also shooting at a 47% clip against Atlanta from the floor. They're 30th in defending, as you can see here on the screen, 30th in defending, which is dead last against point guards this year. They've given up 38 fantasy points per game thus far to point guards this season. They gave up 65 big ones to Mr. Fox, 50 to Ben Simmons, 37 to Dennis Smith Jr., Michael Conley put up 37 on them, and Tim Hardaway of my New York Knickerbockers put up 51. So there is definitely room for Tyler Johnson to at least exceed value, get 30, maybe even 35. He is capable of getting it done. I think he's a great value play here in a matchup that is definitely favorable for him, and that he's going to have to be a part of the offense. We go to shooting guard. At shooting guard, you know I love DD. DeMar DeRozan is definitely always in play for me. A tough game here today, because he's probably going to get, defended by Drew Holiday. I still think he'll be able to put up some serious numbers. I'm a little weary at 9,900, you need 49. So you need to really make this really intriguing. He's going to have to get over 50, and I think it's going to be a tough matchup for him. So I'm actually going to pull away from DeRozan today. I'm going to go with Victor Oladipo at 8,900 today as my stud shooting guard. 22.3 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists per game, 41 fantasy points at 8,900. You need 44 from him, and he is $7,700, $1,200 cheaper on DK. It's definitely a fine play on DK. You only need 37 at 5x, and he is more than capable of getting that done. He's averaging 41. So I definitely love him on DK. 4 out of his last 5 games, 43 plus. He's on the front end of back-to-back. He played last night, and he played 35 minutes, which is quite a bit of minutes, but nonetheless, he's young. He's very healthy. He's athletic. I don't see him having any setbacks. They normally don't sit players much in Indiana, so I could see him still getting his 30 to 35 minutes again here tonight. He put up a 50 spot last night, 32 plus minutes per game. Let's go over to the cruncher. And he's pretty much averaging about 32 plus minutes per game. His usage rate is at 26, 27%, pretty much on average. If you calculate, maybe even higher, about 28%. Last 6 games, pretty much his last 6 games, look at all these shots. He's pretty much shooting about 18, 19 shots per game from the floor, and about 6 or 7 threes on average from 3. He's a good defender, can get you some steals and blocks, as you can see that. That's all additional fantasy points for us, which we love, especially me, if anything. I love to see guards, especially shooting guards and point guards, doing that. And we go and we look over, and he had some great success against Boston last year. 44, 60, and 57 in 3 games last year. He put up 53.6 fantasy points per game versus these guys, and had a usage rate of at least 30, maybe 37, 38% in these 3 games. That is just totally ridiculous. He put up a lot of shots. As you can see, he's over 60, 71 shots in 3 games. I mean, he is an integral part of the offense. He has had success against Boston. Everything just leads to the factors. I think this is a great game also to stack. I may have a lineup where I stack up this game, because it's a low implied total game. We got India 208, which is what I have for this game here. 102 for Indiana and 105 for Boston, give or take. I do believe this game, all the stud players on these actual 2 teams, they're going to definitely be able to put up sufficient numbers. And due to this a low implied total game, you got to expect Oladipo to put up his 40, 50, maybe even more. You figure Irving, you figure Hayward, possibly Jason Tatum, and Al Horford being in that 30, 35 range or better as well today as fantasy points. It could be a very good game to possibly stack. We're going up against Boston. So now we're over Indiana versus Boston. Boston is allowing the fewest points per game to the opposition. We all know that they're very tough defensively, only giving up 99.5 points per game. The opponents are shooting 42% on them, which is not that bad from the floor, and 39% from three. Boston is 22nd in defending. As you can see here, they're 22nd in defending shooting guards this year, and they're allowing 22 fantasy points per game, which is pretty darn good thus far this year. But they haven't faced a whole lot of guys. Trey Burke of the Knicks put up 33. Evan Fournier put up 36. And you got Oladipo coming in here. He's one of the top-tier shooting guards, one of the top players in this league entirely, going up against these guys. And these guys have not faced anybody other than Burke and Fournier are the only ones who put up 30. So no elite guards until today when they see Victor Oladipo. I definitely love Victor Oladipo here versus the Boston Celtics. As far as value as shooting guard, I'm going to go down to that Miami game, and you got to have at least some exposure to Rodney McGruder. No Dragic, obviously, is a bump up for McGruder. He's going to have to take more shots. And you got to pick on Atlanta a little bit. They're pretty much dead last in almost every category, in every position, as far as fantasy points and as far as giving up points per game as a unit. They have also been pretty poor there as well. Rodney McGruder, 14.3 points, 6 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 29.5 fantasy points per game is pretty good number for him. That's helped because all the injuries that Miami has, and now they got Dragic out tonight. 5,700. You need 27 here on DK. He's a little more pricier. I love him more here on Fanduel than DK, but he's playable on DK if you could squeeze him in. 6,400. You need 32 there. It's not like he cannot get 32. I think he can. He has 40-point upside, as you see here, 39.6 and 40. He's already done it twice this year. He's had 4 solid games of 31 or better over the last 4 or 5 games. He's getting the minutes. He's going to get a lot of minutes as well. He's going to get a bump, like I said, in this game here. He did get a 50 spot. Did put up 23 fantasy points in preseason against this team. If we go over here and let's go over to McGruder, and because he hasn't played a whole lot against this team, he did play on October the 12th. He did put 23 fantasy points in the preseason game in 26 minutes and had a usage rate of nearly 21%. And we know now he is a part of the offense due to the fact of all the injuries coming in to the season. He has played a whole lot, and look at all the green preseason and all the way through the first few games of the season. He's had 2 games where he just didn't quite meet value, but he is still pretty much in that price range. And before his price range gets even a little more up, we want to take advantage of that, because if he has a pretty decent game here today, I could see his price going up into the 6K range, and then he's going to be kind of priced out. So I think today you got to take advantage of him here. Going up against Atlanta, again, 27th in points per game allowed to opponents, 120.5 points per game. Opponents are shooting 47% from the floor with Atlanta, and they also, in Miami comes in shooting 45.5% from the floor. So they actually been shooting pretty darn well from the floor. Atlanta, 30th in defending shooting guards, as you see here, 30th. All right, and they've given up 40, and they have also allowed 33.8 fantasy points per game, which is second most in the NBA to shooting guards. 48 to Buddy Hield, 40 to Mr. Hood, 30 to Mr. Fultz. They gave up 39 to Levine and 42 to Temple. None of those guys are top-tier guys, not to say that McGruder is, but he fits right in the mold of guys like Temple and Fultz and Hood. So I think he's more than capable of getting us more than 30 fantasy points here today and really smashing value. So he is one of the guys that I'm considering. I didn't tell you my point guard. Did I tell you guys the point guard? I went over the shooting guard. Did I give you the value at point guard? If I didn't, the value play for the budget play for point guard is Jeremy Lin. I gave him to you a couple of games ago, and he smashed that. And he did put up another nice game the other day. I think he's in the up and up with this team, the Atlanta Hawks. I could expect him to possibly get 26 to as much as 30 minutes going into this game against Miami, especially if it gets out of hand. He's going to get some more. So he'll be the budget player. Shooting guard, as far as value, I really am not fond of a lot of guys here, but if you're going to choose anybody down here, obviously I think Antonio Blakeney is probably a good spot at 3,800. If you're not on him, maybe someone like Bellinelli might be a good play, but he's been getting 21, 25 minutes 2 out of the last 3 games, and look at the points, 21 and 22 from the floor, averaging about 25. He doesn't do a lot of other things, which I don't like from point guards, is not them doing any rebounding, assisting, getting some blocks and steals. He is not big on that, as you can see during the course of his game log, but he at least scores some points. He's a scorer. He's a shooter. maybe Blakeney may be a nice value play at shooting guard for you guys today, other than Jeremy Lin at point guard. Let's go to small forward. At small forward today, I am definitely going to have some exposure to Marichik. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to have some exposure to Josh Richardson. That should be automatic due to the fact of the bump there with Dragic out, and he's been one of the most integral offensive players for the Miami Heat thus far this year, Josh Richardson. So I expect him to get a little bit more usage today. He's going to have some exposure from me. I could definitely talk about him. I think he's definitely in play. I want to point that out. I'm going to go all the way down to Rudy Gay at 6,800. 6,800 for Rudy Gay. You need about 34 from him here on FanDuel. On DK, he is 6,500, so you need about 32 there. He's averaging 30 fantasy points per game, putting up 14 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 2 assists. He has played 33-plus minutes on average the last few games, and he has 2 44-plus games in the last 3 games. He has 45-point upside. Let's go over here. He has 45-point upside. He's in a favorable matchup. And we have to take advantage of Rudy Gay's price because he's slowly but surely going to get up even more. He's up at 6,800. He was 7,000 back on Halloween night on the 31st, and now he's back down $200 cheaper. He had an off, not so much of an off night. As you can see, he only played 23 minutes, but this was a blowout game, so he didn't have to play a whole lot of minutes. He did not take a whole lot of shots. He still got 12 points from the floor. So I expect him to have a bounce-back game here, a little bit more of a competitive game, definitely a paced-up game. Definitely somewhere where he could be very effective in. He's taking about 10, 15 shots per game pretty much on average, as you can see here. And he is shooting. He is pretty much shooting. And when you look at him, it's not only him putting down shots, but he does a lot of the other things. He can rebound. He does defend a little bit. Look at 6 steals here. 1 steal here, two blocks. So he does a little bit of everything. He fills up the stat sheet a little by little. He could be a very, very sneaky play. He's become more and more involved with this team since last year. There were times last year, if you guys were following me, I'm like, why didn't I use him more Rudy Gay? Why he's not getting more minutes? And now he's pretty much a part of this offense and how they're doing things in San Antonio. And like I said, he is shooting 50% from the floor at home and 60% from 3 thus far this year. So he's shooting very, very well and averaging about 37 fantasy points per game at home as well. And he is in a home game today versus New Orleans. New Orleans is coming in 29th in points per game allowed to opponents, 122 points per game, which is huge, huge, huge in this matchup. Opponents are shooting 48% from the floor and 39% from 3 against New Orleans. New Orleans comes in 4th in defending small forwards, as you can see here, which is pretty darn good. But they haven't faced a whole lot of guys because when you go and you look at the fantasy point totals, they have only given up 22.2 fantasy points per game, which is also excellent, but not a lot of top-tier small forwards they have faced. They only faced Durant and Tobias Harris, and both of them put up over 40. Durant put up 46. Tobias Harris put up 43. So I can say that Rudy Gay is probably good in a good matchup in a favorable position. If he gets sufficient minutes and this game stays fairly close, he can get 30 to 35 or more in this matchup. Okay, Gordon Hayward. My next guy is Gordon Hayward, 5,400. I mean, you really can't pass up Gordon Hayward here. He's slowly but surely getting involved in his offense. We have to remember he just came back from a serious injury. This is a top-tier player 2 years ago. He was one of the top stars in his league for the Utah Jazz, averaging really, I mean, this is a $8,000 player. I mean, and he's over here right now pretty much at 5,400. Before he gets to the point that he's getting 30-plus minutes and he's putting up 35, 40 fantasy points per game, we have to take advantage of his price being 5,400. I think he's in a good matchup here. He comes in here, 11 points per game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 22.7 fantasy points, 5,400. You pretty much need 27, which is doable for him, and 5,200 on DK where you need 26. In 2 games out of the last 3, he's put up 18 and 15 floor points. He's already put up a 32 spot, so we know he's capable of getting 30. We know he's capable of getting 40 on any given night when everything is going right and his shot is going down. We know he is a pure shooter. They come over here. He's gotten 23-plus minutes. Where is he? 23. Let's look for him here. Gordon Hayward. And as you can see, he's averaging 24 minutes or better. His usage rate is a little choppy, but I would say more or less between here, maybe in the 19% range. And it's going to get improved. It's going to improve as he continues to play and he gets more involved in his team. He's taken about 32 shots over the last 3 games, which is nice, and taking 12 shots from 3. We definitely need to see that field goal percentage get a little bit better. But as we know, he's capable of doing a number of other things, which I also like. 5 assists, 4 rebounds, can get the occasional block or steal. He's not big on that. He's more of a shooter. But again, slowly but surely, the usage rate is going to go up. The chances and the opportunities, the more touches with the ball are going to obviously improve. Little by little, things are going to get better for Gordon Hayward. I just think that we got to take advantage of the price and at the same time, the matchup. It's going to be a good close game. Like I said before, I expect Gordon Hayward and the Boston players, as far as him, as far as Tatum and Kyrie Irving, sorry about that, froze up there. Irving definitely need to be able to be involved offensively in this game. We go down here to Indianapolis. Indianapolis, like I said before, they're the 3rd best defense in the league. They allow the 3rd fewest points to opposition, only 102.9 points per game. Position is only field goal percentage has only been 43% against them. Indianapolis is coming in 27th in defense against small forwards, which is pretty high. Okay, that's pretty high for them. In this area, this is one area that they're a little vulnerable in. They have allowed only 18.7 fantasy points per game to small forwards. But again, that's the 2nd fewest in the NBA as far as fantasy points to small forwards. But they have only faced 2 solid top tier or at least mid-tier players. They played Rudy Gay, who put up 27, and Mr. Middleton of Milwaukee put up 33.8. Other than that, they really haven't played anybody else of any elite level or at least top tier in the small forward position. So Gordon Hayward, who has the capability and the skill set to be able to put up more than enough, should be able to get 30 or better in this game and meet value or at least exceed value. So I see him exceeding value here. I think he's going to get involved in this game. This is going to be a nice game to watch. Like I said before, I think it's a good game also to stack, and he will be one of those guys that I would throw in there. As far as budget plays here for small forward, to me, it's pretty much just Dante Cunningham has been getting some action, getting more than 20 minutes a game. So he's getting the minutes, and at 3,600, I'd rather take a chance of that. He has the potential to get you 20 plus. He did get 28 here against LA in 29 minutes, but he's been averaging 26 minutes the last 3 games. Just need him to chuck up a few more balls and be able to get a couple of defensive stops, some steals or some blocks, and we'll be able to meet value. So I think it could be a very nice play. And other than that, James Ennis III is going to probably be getting some action, possibly even today. So he may be another option. I definitely like Dante Cunningham a little bit more due to the amount of minutes he's going to get. All right, we'll go over to power forward. At power forward, man, I mean, Anthony Davis is in play, but at that price, I'm not going to take a chance on him in this matchup against San Antonio. He did not have big numbers against San Antonio at all last year. I don't see that being any different this year. San Antonio could be a little tough on some of the big men. But Anthony Davis, again, viable. If you want to play him, you need about 60 to 61, 62 from him. That's a big, large number, especially that he is suffering with this elbow injury. We don't know if he's going to play or not. Aldridge also has been having trouble with the New Orleans Pelicans over the years as well, so I'm not on Aldridge. I'm actually coming down to Wendell Carter Jr. and only for DK. On FanDuel, I'm not a big fan of Wendell Carter at this price of $7,400. So please listen to the video carefully. Wendell Carter Jr. is a great play on DK. He's only 5,500 on DK. You only need 26, 27 there, and I think he can definitely get that. He's averaging 29 pretty much on FanDuel. But at 7,400 on FanDuel, you need pretty much like 37. 36, 37, that's 10 more fantasy points more than DK. That is definitely something that I will not do. I would definitely find someone else in FanDuel to play other than Carter. I probably will just take the chance and play Aldridge on FanDuel for that price, and who has upside and may have a great game, which I'm a little afraid of the matchup for Aldridge. But Wendell Carter Jr. definitely on DK is someone you can definitely consider at 5,500. He's put up 31 plus in 4 straight games with a 59 spot right here 2 games ago. He's averaging pretty much, let's go over here to the, he's averaging about 24, 25 minutes, pretty much 26 minutes per game over the last few games. His usage rate is at about 21, 22% on average. Last 3 games, he's taken pretty much about 40 to 42, 43 shots from the floor and about 7 threes over the course of those games. His home and away splits have been pretty good. 4 games at home this year, he's shooting 47% from the floor and 40% from 3 and averaging 31.5 fantasy points per game, which is awesome for him going into this matchup. If he could keep that up, he's going to definitely meet value. Might have a rough matchup here because he's going up against Clint Capella and PJ Tucker. One of the two is going to defend him. And Capella's not a bad defender. PJ Tucker is definitely a good defender. So that will be a problem. My only concern, but I think at DK for 5,500, I am more than happy to take a stab at Wendell Carter Jr. Houston is coming in 20th in points per game allowed to opposition, 115.6 points per game. The opponents are shooting at 49% clip against these guys. Chicago is coming in shooting at 46%, so there is opportunity. Houston's 28th in defense, as you can see here, against power forwards, which is definitely one of the worst teams this year thus far. Has allowed only 28 fantasy points per game to power forwards, but they did give up 46 to LeBron James, 45 to Meritic, and 38 to Gallinari. Not a whole lot of stud players, but those three are they're up there in the top, especially LeBron James. So there is potential for Mr. Wendell Carter to put up 30 to 35 or better here today. I definitely love him on DK. Fanduel, I may throw him in one lineup. Don't like too much of the top power forwards here today. And if I'm going to play anybody on Fanduel, I'll probably go to Millsap or Ingram or maybe even Aldridge over Wendell Carter Jr. But Wendell Carter Jr., again, folks, definitely a great play on DK with 5,500. My next player is going to be Marcus Morris of Boston. I still like that game between Boston and Indianapolis. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think guys like Marcus Morris and some of these guys are all going to have their say and their part in this game as far as fantasy points are concerned. So Marcus Morris coming in here, 14.8 points, 7.1 rebounds, 1 assist, 25.3 fantasy points per game, 5,200. You need pretty much 26. And on DK, he's 5,600. You need about 27. So 26, 27, give or take, he can get it done. He doesn't have great upside, but he's capable of getting you 35, so he should be able to at least exceed value. There is the potential for that today. All right. He has been pretty good as a 1 fantasy point per minute player, in my opinion. I mean, you know, he's been pretty solid there, as you can see. 24, 31 minutes, 25 minutes, and look at the fantasy points. Here he exceeded it, here he exceeded it, here he exceeded it. So he's capable of doing that. 1 fantasy point per minute. He's been averaging 24 to 28 minutes thus far this year in 4 straight games at 27 plus. So that's pretty darn good, and he has a 30 spot in there in between. Can get you 35, maybe even a little bit more. Doesn't have a huge ceiling, that's for sure. You know, that's the one deal with him. He can get you close to 40. He has done it before. His usage rate is not too bad, man. His usage rate has been pretty good. He is being utilized 23 pretty much percent to 24% over the last 3 games, and he's getting shots. He's taking about 10, 11 shots per game, and he's shooting about 5 or 6 threes per game. And then he brings in the rebounding, and then he brings a little bit of some of those skills of blocking and getting some steals. He's done that time to time. Doesn't do it consistently, but if we can do it consistently, it's only going to help us with fantasy points. So we will love that. What he brings to the table is the rebounding and, of course, the steals. If he can do that and be able to shoot well from the floor, at least 45, 50% with a team that's giving up pretty much, I don't know, probably 40, 50% shooting to its opposition, I definitely like Marcus Morris here. Indianapolis, again, like I said before, man, they're 3rd fewest points per game, 102.9, 27th in defending, as you can see. Right. Well, we're going to bring this down to Marcus Morris so you can see it. Yeah, 27th. Indiana's 27th in defending power forwards this year. They're allowing 29 fantasy points per game. They did give up 31 to Gibson, 54 to Giannis, which obviously he's a top-tier guy, 35 to Aldridge, and 42 to my New York Knicks, Vonleh. Vonleh put up 42 against his team, against the Indianapolis Pacers, the Indiana Pacers. So I definitely think that Marcus Morris can get something done here. There is room for Morris to get at least his 30 or 30-plus in this matchup, and considering it's going to be a close game, I think he has the opportunity to do that. Let's go over to center. At center today, definitely I'm loving. Look, listen, Gobert and Jokic are definitely in play. It's just for them to get 50 against one another, I think it's going to be tough. If one of them does it, that's fantastic. I'm a little hesitant in taking either one of them. I think both of them are playing well. I think Gobert's been playing really much better than Jokic at the moment, but we know Jokic is one of the best centers in the league who is offensively is lights out. He could step it up on any given night. He hasn't had success against Utah. Neither has Gobert against Jokic against Denver. So I'm going to avoid that matchup, and I'm just going to go down to favorable matchups. Now, we got Whiteside here. Capello just played last night. He's going to get probably less opportunities due to Harden being back. I could probably see him getting a little bit less usage going into today. Plus, he played a large role last night for Houston in their game. So my best bets is, hey, Whiteside or McGee probably are the best bet. I'm going to go with Whiteside at 8,600. You need 43 from him here on FanDuel. He is 8,000 on DK, so you need 46 there. He's averaging pretty much 40, 13 points, 15 rebounds. He's not a guy who's going to pass the ball out. He's a rebounder. He's a shot blocker. He can get a few steals, and he can score, especially under the basket. He is pretty good at that, and that's what you really want him for. So he has 40-plus games in 3 out of the last 4 games. He has a 59 spot, as you can see here, pretty much a 60 spot in his 2 games ago. 29-plus minutes per game, pretty much on average. Let's go over to the cruncher. And on the cruncher, if we look a little bit on Whiteside, everything looks pretty darn good. His usage rate up about 20, 21%, 22% on average. He shot about 44, maybe 45 shots over the last 4 games. And he definitely, you know, and what he brings to the table is the rebounding. Look at all these rebounds. And he also brings to the table the defensive skills. Blocking. Look at this, 11, 12, 13 blocks in the last 3 games and 2 steals. So we just need him to keep doing that. If he can do that tonight, he's going to do just fine for us. Just fine for us. So I love the idea here to bang up on Atlanta. Atlanta is definitely terrible in every aspect of their defense. Atlanta coming in 27th in points per game allowed to opponents, which I've discussed already. Opponents are shooting 47% and Miami shooting 45%. Atlanta's 30th in defense against centers, dead last, okay? And as you can see here, and 32.3 fantasy points per game to centers. They gave up 42 to Tristan Thompson, 36 to DeAndre Jordan, and Mr. Cantor of the New York Knicks put up 38. So they are giving up 38, pretty much 36 or better thus far to 3 opponents. And Whiteside is definitely one of those guys who can get you 35 or better. I like the whole opportunity, man. There's definitely an opportunity for Whiteside to pick up some really, really huge numbers here today. If the game could stay fairly close, I think Atlanta can hang there for a little while. If Bazemore and Prince and some of them guys, even Jeremy Lin coming off the bench, can keep the game close, I think they can. Miami's definitely the better team, even with all their injuries. Definitely Mr. Whiteside is in play for me. As far as budget at center, man, I mean, it's tough. Like I said, I'm going to have some exposure to McGee. I definitely think he's in a matchup where he can be able to do well and get under the skin of Nurkic. Even Nurkic, you can even consider at 7,000. You need 35 there. Horford and Turner could possibly be a play, either one of the two, at 61 and 67. I'm going to go down and probably recommend Tristan Thompson at 5,000. Not really a whole lot of centers I love. I don't even have a center for value down there. I think he's the value play and possibly the budget play or the lowest center. I would think today it'd probably be better to pay up at center just simply because of what I see on the table. But Tristan Thompson, man, 5K here you need. You need 25. He's averaging pretty much 8 points per game, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. Again, he's did not look too bad. 23-plus in 2 straight games. He's basically trending up, which is great. 28-plus minutes per game. Let's go over to the cruncher, and let's look at him a little bit further. And, pretty much 28-plus minutes over the last 2 games. Did get a double-double. His home and away splits have been pretty darn good. I looked at those. He's been shooting 50% and averaging 22 fantasy points per game at home. So, I mean, at this price, that's pretty close to what he needs for us tonight. I think if he can just get a little bit more rebounds and a couple more stops defensively, like some shot blocks, he'll be fine. We're not going to get a ton of usage. He does get anywhere between 6 to 7, maybe 8 shots per game. And, of course, what we really need him to do is to rebound, pass the ball when he needs to, and basically try to keep himself busy with his hands and feet and try to do some defense and get some blocks and some steals. If he can do that, he'll be just fine. He'll be able to meet value. Going up against Charlotte, they're 8th in points per game allowed to opposition. They're a pretty decent defensive team, 109.7 points per game. Opponents are shooting 45% against the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets 20th in defense, as you can see here, defending centers. But they have been allowing 33.4 fantasy points per game, and that's obvious. They don't have a true center in their position. All the centers, the top-tier centers, including Whiteside, put up 34 the first meeting. Steven Adams put 35, Embiid 49, and Vukovic have put 37 up. So, again, Tristan Thompson doesn't fall into the mold of those particular centers I just mentioned, but we only need him to get 25, 26, 27. If he can do that, he'll meet value. He could exceed value. I can see him getting 30 plus. I don't see him getting 40, 50. But You never know. Any given day, anything can happen in the NBA, in any sport for that matter. So, again, that's where I'm at, man. I really do think these are the best possible plays for you guys today, man. Again, drop a like on the video. If you're new to the channel and you have not as of yet become a community member here at DFS Zone, the only thing you have to do, like I said at the very beginning of the intro, is just click on that subscribe button. Make sure that you put on your post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of the NBA or NFL videos. And on top of that, please share the videos on social media. Let's get the word out. Let's be able to discuss even more DFS with other individuals around the world. All right, guys, with that, I bid you guys a lot of luck tonight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next NBA video.